Don't touch my paper. That's inappropriate. Inappropriate touching of
paper.
Welcome into the Roundtable Studios, where today we talk 3 young, intriguing drivers. Which one will you choose? Joey Logano, David Ragan, Brad Keselowski.
What am I choosing them for?
Their future. Who would you want to drive your car next year?
Between those three, and those three are my choices. You know, it's interesting because you look at Ragan and Logano, and they've both had breakthroughs that didn't pan out, right? Ragan almost made the chase a couple of years ago, and then he took a nosedive for a while again.
Right.
Logano had that great run during the chase last season, then took a nosedive again. So
real bad start to this
It's
year.
almost like they keep reaching this peak, and then they just can't maintain it, and it gives up again.
Well, then you look at Brad Keselowski, and you look at a guy who really hadn't shown. He obviously had his flash of brilliance when he won Talladega, although it was Talladega. Then he gets to Penske and goes almost an entire year without cracking the top 10 before the end of last season. And then this year, the team actually struggled, including Kurt Busch at the beginning of the year. And then he shows some signs, winning that race in Kansas and having a great run at Kentucky, where he finished 7th. I think he also finished 3rd at Darlington.
Well,
so they've all shown those flashes this year. Logano's had the most points of any driver in the last 4 races, and David Ragan is once again climbing into chase contention.
Well, he's in 13th, and he has a win to his credit, so even if he doesn't break into the top 10 right now,
he's got a very good chance to be
like
in the
a sure
postseason.
bet to be in the chase.
Nothing
now,
is certain in NASCAR.
I said he seems like a sure bet. Now, Logano has Greg Zipadelli, and that's not to be underestimated. I think you obviously have to give Joey Logano the nod in terms of who he has atop his pit box.
You know, I've been reading a book on randomness.
That's random.
Okay, and the thing about it is that a lot of times you look at results and you want to attribute those results to kind of measurable factors. But sometimes a guy just goes on a bad luck streak. Just the way you could flip a coin 100 times in a row, and somewhere in there you're going to get 5 or 6 heads in a row, just because of the nature of randomness. And I wonder if Joey Logano's start to this season maybe was a poor reflection of the progress he's actually made, and maybe he's kind of regressing towards the mean now. And not that he's like on the verge of winning something, but that he is maybe the guy that we thought he was at the beginning of the season, the guy that could contend for that 11th, 12th, 13th spot, and he's starting to move back up into points.
It seems to me that it was a little bit too much of an extended dry spell to be attributable to randomness.
I know what you're saying.
You know?
But a lot of times patterns seem that way. They seem like, well, it must be a pattern. I flipped this coin 10 times in a row and it came up heads every time. But in a series of 100, 200, 300 coin flips, that can actually occur. And that may explain, too, the run at the end of last year on the other side. It was a little bit too much of a good run at the end of last year, and maybe now he's regressing towards what his mean is.
But you and I both, I believe, put him in our preseason top 12.
Right.
Now, David Ragan, what he has in his favor that nobody else has is that FR9 power.
Right.
You know, how much of a nod do you give to David Ragan because he's running the Ford power plant and he's with Roush Fenway, a very strong team with a lot of resources at their disposal.
And also compare Reagan's performance with that one win, and you can say, yeah, it was Daytona, so maybe that doesn't tell us as much as a win at another track might, but look at the points he's earned in other races. He has more top 5s than these other guys.
He has more top 10s.
He's got more top, well, I think he might have the same number of top 5s as Joey and more top 10s than these
That's
other
exactly.
guys. So I think the thing of it is, Ragan has proven in his other performances that he's grown as a driver to me, if you look at season long. But I still am intrigued by the talent of Joey Logano. And then Brad Keselowski, you know, I'm intrigued by his talent too, but that New Hampshire run just really would have bummed me out.
He's a knucklehead. He doesn't have the brains yet. He doesn't have the racing acumen, the racing intelligence yet.
I actually think he's a very bright individual.
But I don't think he has.
But you got to know when to push it. You got to know when to hold him and when to fold him, Cutler.
You got to be able to push it real good at the appropriate time.
But not at the inappropriate time.
Exactly. And right now, Brad Keselowski, I think, might still have that young, impetuous aggressiveness that he needs to be tamed up.
You know, burning out your tire at New Hampshire.
When you have a good car.
And when, you know, you've got that win and you really need to be conservative and get yourself in the top 20.
That dropped him 2
That's
positions.
the only way you're going to make the chase is by getting in the top 20. So it's a real good time to be conservative and avoid bad finishes, which just kill you in the system.
So who are you taking?
I'm taking Logano.
You're taking Logano?
I'm taking Logano. I like the team. I like the progress he's made. I think that the poor start to the season was a false sign of regression, and I think he's still making progress.
I like Logano too because of the Zipadelli equation,
right,
which I think trumps. I think Zipadelli trumps FR9.
Well, I think Blickensderfer and Reagan is a good combination.
But since you're taking Logano, I'm comfortable taking Reagan. I don't really see a lot of difference between Logano and Reagan. They've both shown flashes of brilliance, but inconsistency, no ability to sort of maintain the strides they've made.
And that's the problem that young guys often have.
I think they're pretty much birds of a feather. So if you're going to take Logano, I'm comfortable taking Reagan, and I think we're both comfortable leaving Keselowski on the table.
Well, I'm not, because I don't want Brad Keselowski to feel rejected, because I think he's a very good driver and a fine talent, and we could both be proven wrong by his future performance. So, Brad, we're still here for you.
Brad,
if you need us.
You're good enough, you're talented enough, and doggone it, we like you.
Yes, we do. We do indeed.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.